NEET Academy. Today we are going to deal with chapter number 3, Plant Kingdom. So guys, once again welcome back to the channel. Today we will be seeing what all we have to do in this chapter, Plant Kingdom. As you know, this is a high weighted chapter and we should be clear about the questions and the parts that can be coming from this chapter. So let's go into the chapter. The first thing that you have to notice that blue-green algae is not an algae. This is a fact that we have already seen. Okay. Now, there are two types of classification. In the previous chapters, we have studied what are classifications and the types of classification, and now we will be studying the two different types of classification. One is natural classification and the other one is artificial classification. Now, let's see what are those. The earlier system of classification used only gross superficial morphological characters such as habit, color, number, shape. Okay. So these characters they used only morphological characters such as habit, color, number, shape of leaves, etc. These type of classification were known as artificial classification. So this type of classification is artificial classification. Who is the author of artificial classification? It's Linnaeus. So the system was given by Linnaeus. Artificial classification, Linnaeus, and only gross morphological characters. Now let's see what is natural classification. It came to know that only vegetative characters are not enough for the classification because vegetative characters can change according to the time. So we introduced more characters. Like vegetative characters are more easily affected, as I said. So natural classification developed, which was based on the natural affinity among the organisms. And this type of classification was known as natural classification. And in this, not only the external characters but also the internal features like ultrastructure, anatomy, embryology, phytochemistry were also included. Okay. So in artificial system of classification, it was only the morphological characters, whereas in natural classification, along with the morphological characters, there are internal features like structure, ultrastructure, anatomy, embryology. Okay. And who developed this system of classification? It was George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. Just these points you have to note: artificial classification by Linnaeus and natural classification by George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. Okay. Now let's see. These are the main types of classification: artificial classification and natural classification. There were new other classification which was developed. Those are phylogenetic classification. They were phylogenetic classification, numerical taxonomy, cytotaxonomy, and chemotaxonomy. Okay. Phylogenetic classification. Now we have to learn about these four types are there, right? Phylogenetic, numerical, cyto, chemo. Just as the name suggests, it's easy to understand. Phylogenetic means evolutionary relationships. Okay, phylogenetic, evolutionary relationship. That's it. Then means the evolutionary, about they all in a group of organisms they will be having a common ancestor. It's about phylogenetic classification. Now when there is no fossil evidence of a common ancestor, we come into another types of classification. One of them is numerical taxonomy. Numerical taxonomy, as the name suggests, we will be giving some numbers and codes for special character. So an organism will be known by its own numbers and codes, and thus it is known as numerical taxonomy. Okay. It is carried out using computers and all the observable characters. Okay, number and codes are assigned to all the characters and then the data is processed. So this is numerical taxonomy. Numerical means numbers and codes it is processed using computers. Okay. Then comes the cytotaxonomy. Cyto means cell. So it will be related to the cell. Cytotaxonomy is cytological informations like chromosome number, structure, behavior. Okay. That is also clear. Now coming into chemotaxonomy. What is chemotaxonomy? Chemo means chemical. So chemical constituents of plants will be the basis of this type of classification. Chemotaxonomy, chemical constituents of plants. Okay. So all these types are clear. Natural classification, artificial classification, phylogenetic classification, numerical, cytological and chemotaxonomy. Okay. Now we will be learning about, as we said, kingdom Plantae. Kingdom Plantae is a separate kingdom, right? So in this kingdom Plantae, we will be studying about Algae, Bryophytes, Pteridophytes, Gymnosperms and Angiosperms. And this chapter we will be dealing with chapter as two parts. Okay. So in this we will see the chapter, and in the second part we will see the previous year questions. Okay. So let's go into the first group, it's Algae. First of all, Algae is the first group, and this Algae is again divided into three other subgroups. This we will deal later. Okay. So what are Algae? Algae are chlorophyll bearing. Chlorophyll bearing means they will be having chlorophylls. Okay. Then there will be symbol. Symbol, it's plant, so it will be having chlorophyll. It's symbol. Thalloid. What do you mean by thalloid? Thalloid is a body part which doesn't have true root, true leaf, true stem. Those things, if they doesn't possess a true root or leaf, they are known as thalloid structure or thallus. Okay. Then autotroph. Since it is a plant, it will be autotroph. Then it will be largely aquatic. So what are the points that you have to note? It's chlorophyll bearing, it's obvious. So you don't have to memorize it. It's autotrophic, it is also obvious because it is a plant. You have to note that it is symbol, it's thalloid and largely aquatic. Okay. Even though they are aquatic, they can also be grown in other habitats like moist stones, soils and woods. Okay. They can also be grown with, this is a PYQ, and we will deal with this in multiple chapters. What was that? Lichen. Lichen is algae plus fungi association. And in animals it is seen in sloth bear. Algae is seen along with the sloth bear. Okay. So these two things you have to note. One is lichen and the other one is association with the sloth bear. Okay. Now coming into the more types of algae, examples of algae. Okay. Now let's see. There are algae of different forms and different sizes, and they can be unicellular, they can be colonial, they can be filamentous. Okay, now we will see example for each of the group, and I will be sharing you some tricks so that you will become more easy to memorize it. Okay, let's see. Colonial. This is the trick that I used to study. It was like colonial. Which algae is the example for colonial type of algae? So I have studied it like this, colonial, right? See, this colonial word is having 2O and Volvox is also having 2O. So colonial, Volvox. Now you won't forget it. Colonial 2 O's and Volvox 2O. So colonial is Volvox. Then the filamentous forms. Filamentous forms are Eulothrix and Spirogyra. Eulothrix and Spirogyra. Filamentous forms are Eulothrix and Spirogyra. And filamentous form, see, filamentous has a O, Spirogyra has 1 O and Eulothrix has 1 O. Colonial is having 2 O, so Volvox. And this filamentous is having 1 O, so Eulothrix and Spirogyra. Okay. This is a trick. You can use it if you want. Then there are marine forms. There is a marine form which is known as kelp. There is a marine form of algae known as kelp which can form massive forms. Okay, its body will be massive, means it will be big. Okay, marine form, kelp and massive plant body. They will be having massive plant body. Now let's go into the next session. Algae, the reproduction of algae. The reproduction of algae will be by vegetative, asexual and sexual methods. There are vegetative, sexual and asexual methods. Let's see in detail. Vegetative is always fragmentation, budding, so such things. Okay, each fragments, vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation. Each fragments will be developing into a new thallus. What is thallus? Thallus is a body part which does not have which doesn't possess true root or leaves. Okay. And what is asexual reproduction? Asexual reproduction is done using spores. Asexual reproduction is done using different types of spores. And what are which is the commonest spore? It is zoospore. The common spore is zoospore. Okay, zoospore. The common spore is zoospore. Okay. And these zoospores are flagellated. Do you remember that when we studied about fungi, there were zoospores and aplanospores. Zoospores was flagellated. Flagellated means they were motile, Eplanospores were non-motile, and in case of algae there is zoospore, it is again flagellated. Zoospore is always so flagellated. Okay, flagellated means it has a flagella, so it can move. They are flagellated. Okay, and on germination this spore will give rise to new plants. The spore will give rise to new plants. And sexual reproduction, as we know, there will be mating of two types of gametes and they will fuse to form zygote. And this zygote undergo meiotic division to form, meiotic division means reduction division. The zygote which is having a chromosome number of 2n will undergo meiosis to form haploid N spores. Okay, and let's see, let me make it clear for you. Vegetative reproduction. In vegetative reproduction, it's always like fragmentation. In asexual reproduction, there is formation of spores. And this spores on germination, will give rise to new thallus. Then now sexual reproduction. There will be fusion of two haploid gametes forming diploid zygote and which undergo meiosis or reduction division to form haploid spores again, and the spores will germinate to form again the thallus body. Okay, done. Now let's see the examples of algae which are undergoing these sexual reproduction. Okay, in sexual reproduction itself there are types of algae which will be having similar type of gametes, means the fusion of gametes leads to sexual reproduction, right? So if the gametes that are fusing are similar, then they are known as iso. So if the gametes that are going to be fused are similar, then they are known as isogamous. If the gametes of different size are fusing, they are known as anisogamous. Okay, let's see what are the examples. So the fusion of gametes, right? These gametes can be flagellated and similar in size. If they are flagellated and similar in size, then they are isogamous. Okay, then if they are non-flagellated but similar in size, Spirogyra. I will give you a trick to remember this, but just read it first. Then this reproduction is known as isogamous, and if dissimilar in size, they are known as anisogamous. Example is Eudorina. Okay, and if the fusion is between one large and one small gamete, then it is known as oogamous. Okay, oogamous. Example is Liverworts and Fucus. Now here is the trick for you to remember it. Okay, isogamous, it's two things. Isogamous is two examples for isogamous: Eulothrix and Spirogyra. This you have to remember it. And among this, which is flagellated, which is not flagellated? Just see. Eulothrix is having a L, so it is flagellated, and Spirogyra doesn't have an L, so it is non-flagellated. In isogamous, there is Eulothrix and Spirogyra, and Eulothrix has a L, so it's flagellated, and Spirogyra doesn't have a L, so it is non-flagellated. Okay, so that is done. Then anisogamous, it is Eudorina. And oogamous, again oogamous has two O, so Liverworts. This is a cheap trick, but it will be useful so that you will never forget it. Colonial COO, so Liverworts OO, and again oogamous OO, and another example is Fucus. Okay. Good evening, Muhammad Saeed Sulaiman. Okay, then okay, in oogamous the thing is that one will be large and the other one will be small. The large one will be female and it will be non-motile, and the small one will be male gamete and it will be motile. Okay. So this is all you have to note in this section, and see, if you write this in your NCERT in a side, it will be useful when you do the multiple types of division. Okay. So colonial Liverworts, isogamous Eulothrix Spirogyra and flagellated Eulothrix, anisogamous Eudorina, oogamous Liverworts and Fucus. Okay, done. Now let's see these pictures. Even these pictures of NCERT are so important. They can even ask questions from these pictures. Okay, let's see. This is a colonial form, right? Daughter colony. This is daughter colony. See, this is daughter colony and this all together is known as the parent colony. So, this is a colonial form. So, what could be this? This is volvox. This is volvox. And this is a filamentous form. What all we studied for filamentous form? We studied Spirogyra and Eulothrix. So, this is going to be Eulothrix. So, this is Eulothrix. And this pictures we will discuss later when we go into the types of algae. Okay, now seeing about this some common characteristics of algae. Algae are useful. Algae are useful to man in variety of ways. Algae are useful to man in variety of ways, and half of the total, this sentence is important because this can become a statement and ask you like true or false. Okay, half of the total carbon dioxide fixation on earth is carried out by algae by the photosynthesis process. Okay, half of the total carbon dioxide fixation on the earth is carried out by algae. And being photosynthetic, they increase the level of dissolved oxygen in their immediate environment. This is not so important, but you can just have it. Increase the level of dissolved oxygen in their immediate environment. Okay, half of the total carbon dioxide fixation on the earth is carried out by algae through photosynthesis. This is an important point. Okay, now as we studied, who is the chief producers of ocean? The chief producers of oceans was diatoms, but primary producers of energy rich components which form the basis of food cycles. Primary producers of this can come as it is. This sentence can come as it is. So, just listen, primary producers of energy rich compounds which form the basis of food cycles means the primary producers of energy rich compounds. The compounds which are energy rich and used in the food cycles are produced by the algae, but the chief producers of oceans are diatoms. Clear? Now, let us see. And what are the edible algae? Which are the edible algae? The edible algae are Porphyra, Laminaria, Sargassum. Okay, Porphyra, Laminaria and Sargassum. They are among the 70 species of algae which are used as food. Okay. Now, certain and the other use of algae is that it has water holding capacity. Many of the algae has water holding capacity, which is also known as hydrocolloids. Hydrocolloids. Example is algin, which is a type of algin which is obtained from brown algae, and carrageen which is obtained from red algae. So, just remember that this was a PYQ itself. This one was itself a PYQ. Carrageen is by red, algin is by brown. Carrageen is by red algae and algin is by brown algae. Clear? Okay. Now, let us see agar. Agar is one of the algae which we use in our daily basis for making puddings, such food products, and also in tissue culture we use agar. Okay. And agar is obtained, this was also a previous year question, agar is obtained from Gelidium and Gracilaria. Agar is obtained from Gelidium and Gracilaria. Okay. And now comes the doubtful question. Chlorella. Chlorella, yesterday we have studied that chlorella is a protista. Chlorella along with Chlamydomonas is a protista. But here they say is that chlorella is an algae rich in proteins. So, what do you have to do? If it comes related to the protista, you will get it. Like if they ask which of, there is a PYQ, I will show it later, but in general chlorella is a protista. This is the thing you have to note. In general chlorella is a protista, and if there is no chance in the question that it can be protista, then you should write it as algae, and there is a PYQ related to this question, this part I will show you, okay, at the end of the chapter. Then the algae, as I said before, the algae is again subdivided into 3 groups. They are Chlorophyceae, Phaeophyceae and Rhodophyceae. Chlorophyceae means green algae, Phaeophyceae means brown algae, and Rhodophyceae means red algae. Okay, now there is a break for 1 minute. Okay, let's start with Chlorophyceae. Chlorophyceae are green algae. As I said, Chlorophyceae is green algae. They may be unicellular, colonial or filamentous. They can be unicellular, colonial and filamentous. And they are grass green because of the presence of chlorophyll. Because of the presence of chlorophyll, they are grass green in color. Okay, and which are the chlorophyll pigments present in this? This is important. It is chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. Chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B are present in Chlorophyceae, which means green algae. Okay, and where are the pigments present? The pigments are present in the definite chloroplast. Okay, the chlorophylls are present in chloroplast. Chlorophylls are present in chloroplast. And what will be the shape of chloroplast? The chloroplast can be discoid, it can be plate-like, it can be reticulate, it can be cup-shaped, spiral or ribbon-shaped. It will be easier for you if you write something precise on this sides, and it will be easy for your revision. Just do the same, it will be helpful. Okay, chlorophyll A and B. Chlorophyll A and B is present in green algae. It is present inside the definite chloroplast, and chloroplast can be discoid, plate-like, reticulate, cup-shaped, spiral and ribbon. Okay. And along with chloroplast, there is also another body which is known as the storage bodies. Storage bodies, as the name suggests, they will store the contents. They will store the food products. Okay, they are known as pyrenoids. In each algae, they are known by different names. The storage body are present in all three groups of algae, but in green algae, they are known as pyrenoids, and it is located inside the chloroplast itself. It is also located inside the chloroplast. Okay, and this pyrenoid, what is the food? Food is starch, right? Food is starch. So this pyrenoid is basically starch, but along with starch there is also protein. So what is pyrenoid? Pyrenoid is starch plus protein. What is pyrenoid? Pyrenoid is equal to starch plus protein. Starch is the food and it is also having a protein. And how does the cell wall of algae look like? It will be having an inner cellulose layer and outer pectose layer. Okay, it will be having an inner cellulose layer and outer pectose layer. Okay. And some of the algae among the green algae can also form food or store food in oil droplets. Okay, they can also store food in the form of oil droplets. Okay, green algae usually have a rigid cell wall. As I said, they will be having inner cellulose layer and outer pectose layer. And now coming into the reproduction, what all we have to see? We have to see the presence of chlorophyll pigments, then we will see the storage bodies, then we will see the reproduction, then we will see the examples. Okay. Vegetative reproduction is usually fragmentation. Okay. Asexual reproduction by this vegetative reproduction can also by fragmentation and spores. Okay, and asexual reproduction is by flagellated zoospores. As I said before, zoospore is always flagellated zoospores, and which is produced inside the zoosporangia. And what is sexual reproduction? Sexual reproduction, it has considerable type of variation. As I said, anisogamous, isogamous, they are here. Okay, and it can be isogamous, anisogamous or oogamous. What were the examples of isogamous, anisogamous and oogamous? Just remember those things. Okay. Oogamous, volvox, because double O. Okay. And what are the examples? Examples are volvox, eulothrix, spirogyra and chyra. Okay. Volvox, eulothrix, spirogyra and chyra are examples for green algae. Okay. And chlamydomonas, they have given it there, but it's really a protista. Okay. Now coming into Phaeophyceae. Phaeophyceae means brown algae. Brown algae lives in marine habitat. Green algae was primarily aquatic both in fresh and marine water. This brown algae is mostly present in marine habitats. Okay, they show a great variation in size and form. Okay, they can be simple branched, filamentous form like ectocarpus. They can be simple branched or like filamentous form. So, which is the filamentous form of brown algae? It is ectocarpus. Filamentous form is Just see here, filamentous form is ectocarpus, which is the massive form. The massive form is kelps. And what are the pigments present here? The pigments present are chlorophyll A and chlorophyll C and carotene and xanthophyll. Okay, so these are the pigments in brown algae: chlorophyll A, C, carotene, xanthophyll. Okay, and because of these colors, they can vary their color from olive green to different shades of brown. Olive green to different shades of brown. Okay. And depending on the color depends upon the xanthophyll pigment, which is known as fucoxanthin. The color is dependent upon the xanthophyll pigment, which is also known as fucoxanthin. And where is the food stored? The storage bodies. The food will be stored in as complex carbohydrate. As I said, the food is starch or carbohydrate. Okay, so the food is stored in brown algae. The food is stored in laminarin and mannitol. In brown algae, the storage bodies are known as laminarin and mannitol. Okay, now they will be having a cellulosic wall. There in green algae, it was inner cellulose layer and outer pectose layer. Here it is cellulosic wall. Okay. Now coming into the types. Cellulosic wall. The cellulosic wall is the cell wall, and this cell wall will be covered by this cell wall will be covered by a gelatinous substance that is known as algin, and this algin is known as is used for water holding purposes. Okay, the plant body is usually attached to the substratum. Here we will see those pictures and we will get it. Okay, those pictures of brown algae. So these are the brown algae, and in these brown algae, this is known as the body, right? This is the body of the algae. This is the body of the algae or leaf-like body. It is known as front. It is the stack. It is known as type. It is the thing that helps to attach. So it is known as holdfast. Okay, so the structure of attachment is known as holdfast. The stalk is known as stipe, and the substance, the leafy body is known as front. It's not leaf, it's not true leaf, it's leaf-like structure or the body. Okay, then just see this. This is an example of laminarian. Okay, and this is fucus, and they can ask like which of the algae has air bladder in it, so the answer is fucus. Okay, and this is branched one. This is branched. As we said, in brown algae it can be simple structure, or it can be branched, or it can be massive structures. Okay, so this is the branched one, dictyota. Now coming back here. So stipe, holdfast and front. Front is the leaf-like photosynthesis. It's not leaf. They can confuse you like giving the leafy photosynthetic organ is front, but it is wrong. It is leaf-like. Okay. And now reproduction. Vegetative reproduction takes place by fragmentation. And what are the asexual reproduction? Asexual reproduction is by flagellated zoospores. And all we have studied was flagellated zoospores, but here in brown algae it is biflagellate zoospore. And see here it will be pear shaped. The structure will be pear shaped, and it will be having two flagellas. Okay, the pear shaped, it will be pear shaped. The spore will be pear shaped and will be having unequal laterally placed flagellas. So biflagellate. Okay, and now coming into the sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction can be isogamous, anisogamous or oogamous. Okay, now union of gametes may take place within the oogonium. As we said, in sexual reproduction there is fusion of gametes. This fusion of gametes can take place within the oogonium, which means within the structure, or it can also take place outside the structure. That's what they meant. And the gametes can be pyriform. Again, in brown algae. The asexual gamete is also pyriform, which means pear shaped. The sexual gamete is also, sexual gametophyte is also pear shaped. Okay. And now let's see the examples. Here also it has a biflagella, two laterally placed flagellas. Okay, now the common forms are Ectocarpus, Dictyota, Laminaria, Sargassum and Fucus. These examples you have to study. There is no other way, so you have to study these examples. The common forms are Ectocarpus, Dictyota, Laminaria, Sargassum and Fucus. The common examples are Ectocarpus, Dictyota, Laminaria, Sargassum and Fucus. Just remember this Laminaria, because of the Laminaria we can remember this Laminaria, right? Okay. And Kelps is also an example of brown algae. Now coming into the last group, it is red algae. The members of Rhodophyceae are commonly known as red algae. And why they are known as red algae? Because of the red pigment R phycoerythrin. Because of the red pigment R phycoerythrin. Okay. And the red algae are marine. The red algae are marine. It can be present in both well-lighted region and not much light penetrating areas. Means the algae can be found in lighted areas and where the sunlight is so much and where the sunlight is not even perceived. Okay, so it can be seen near to the surface of water where there is so much sunlight and depth of oceans where there is no sunlight. Okay, the red thalli of most of the red algae are multicellular. So the red algae are multicellular. There is something related to this as a PYQ. Okay, so it is related to the red algae is mostly multicellular. Okay. Now comes the most important point. What is that? It is the storage body. The storage body is also known as Floridian starch. The storage body is known as Floridian starch. Okay. This is very similar to amylopectin and glycogen in structure. This is a PYQ. This Floridian starch is very similar to amylopectin and glycogen in structure. Okay. Now coming into the reproduction. Now this is over. Storage bodies are over. Now coming into the reproduction. Vegetative reproduction by fragmentation, asexual reproduction by non-motile spores. Vegetative reproduction by fragmentation and asexual reproduction by non-motile spores. In all other groups of algae, we have studied that it is motile spores, biflagellated or flagellated spores. Here it is non-motile spores. Okay, done. And sexual reproduction is also by non-motile spores. And this table you can use for revision purposes. It will be so helpful for revision purposes. It's all what we have studied. Okay. Sexual reproduction is oogamous. What do you mean by oogamous? One will be motile, big, and the other, the female will be big and motile, big and non-motile, and the male will be small and motile. Okay. And there is complex post-fertilization developments. Okay, the common members, examples are Polysiphonia, Porphyra, Gracilaria, Gelidium. These names are kind of different, so it will be easy to remember. Polysiphonia, Porphyra, Gracilaria and Gelidium. Polysiphonia, Porphyra, Gracilaria and Gelidium. Okay. Now coming into the second group of plant kingdom. Second group of plant kingdom, they are Bryophytes. The second group is Bryophytes, and among these Bryophytes is again divided into mosses and liverworts, other two groups. Okay, two groups, and they are present in the moist shaded regions, moist shaded areas in the hills. Okay. Now this picture we will learn about it after reading the theory. Okay. These are also known as the amphibians of plant kingdom. These are known as the amphibians of plant kingdom. Why they are known as the amphibians? Because they can live in soil, but they can live in soil. Who is known as amphibian? They can live both in soil and water. So this can live in soil but depend on water resources for their reproduction. Okay. They usually occur in damp, humid, shaded localities, and they play an important role in plant succession on bare rocks and soil, which means the plants that we see on rock and soil are mostly these type of Bryophytes. Okay. These are more differentiated than our algae. It's obvious because we start from the lower level. Algae was not so differentiated. Now bryophytes will be more differentiated. Pteridophytes again will be more differentiated, and the angiosperm and gymnosperms will be more and more differentiated. Okay. And it has a thallus-like. Here it is not thallus. It is thallus-like and prostrate or erect. Okay. It can be having unicellular or multicellular rhizoids. What are rhizoids? Rhizoids are root-like structures. Here we have root-like structures. Okay. And they lack true roots. It's important. Lack true roots, stem or leaves. Okay. They may possess root-like, leaf-like or stem-like structure. They may possess root-like, stem-like or leaf-like structures. Okay. The main plant body of the bryophyte is haploid. The main plant body. This is an important point that you have to note. Every group is having a main plant body. In bryophytes, it's haploid gametophyte. In bryophyte, which is the important plant body, it is haploid. The main plant body is haploid. Haploid for bryophyte, haploid. Okay. And the sex organs are multicellular. The sex organs are multicellular. The male sex organ is known as antheridium. The male sex organ is known as antheridium, and the female sex organ is known as archegonium. The male sex organ is known as antheridium, and the female sex organ is known as archegonium. And this antheridium will produce anthrazoids. Anthrazoids are the spores, and the archegonium will produce a single egg. Archegonium will be producing a single egg which is flask shaped. Archegonium produces single egg which is flask shaped. Okay. Anthrazoids are released into what? Let's see the process. See this is antheridium. This is antheridium and this is archegonium. Antheridium means it is male, right? It is male sex organ and it will produce anthrazoids. These are spores. And this spores will come in vicinity of this archegonium which is female, and inside that it will fuse with the egg inside the archegonium and they will form a zygote. They will form a zygote which is diploid. Okay. And it won't undergo meiosis division immediately. Point to be noted, it won't undergo meiosis division immediately. It is a multicellular body. It develops into a multicellular body, and this multicellular body is known as sporophyte. So this is known as gametophyte, and the egg inside is also known as gametophyte. When these gametophytes fuse, they will form a zygote and will form a multicellular body which is known as sporophyte. Okay, and the sporophyte is diploid. And which is the main body part? It is haploid. Okay. And the point to be noted here is that the sporophyte and bryophyte is not free living. Means it is always attached to the gametophyte. The sporophyte is always attached to the gametophyte. Means the living body, the growing body plant is always attached to the gametophyte, the photosynthetic gametophyte, and derives nourishment from it. These, whatever I underlined, is the most important things. Okay, sporophyte undergoes reduction, division, meiosis to produce haploid spores. This sporophyte, we have formed the sporophyte here, right? By the fusion zygote multicellular body sporophyte, and this sporophyte will undergo reduction division to form spores, and these spores will be haploid. And this spores again germinate to form gametophyte. So please note or draw or note these things, because it will be helpful and you don't have to read this section multiple times, because it's easy like this. It's archegonium, it's antheridium. This is male sex organ antheridium, this is female sex organ archegonium, and they fuse zygote multicellular sporophyte, reduction division, spore, again gametophyte. Okay. And now let's see the examples. Sphagnum is a moss. Okay, sphagnum is a moss, and it provides peat. Then the next one is this peat is also used. This sphagnum is also used as a packing material because of their capacity to hold water. Then mosses along with lichens. Mosses plus lichens. What are lichens? Fungi plus algae. Okay, mosses plus lichens colonize the rocks. Okay. Mosses form dense mats on soil. They reduce the impact of falling rain and prevent the soil erosion. Just see that on rocks these mosses will be growing, and these mosses will be preventing the impact of rain. Mosses will prevent the impact of rain because this moss will be othered to the underlying structures. So this moss will prevent the impact of rain and will prevent the soil erosion. Okay. Now the bryophytes are again, as I said, they are again divided into liverworts and mosses. Liverworts usually grow in moist, shady habitats, streams, marshy ground, damp soil. Okay, that you cannot. And the example, and this liverwort is also thalloid. Liverwort is thalloid structure, and the example is Mercantia. Okay. The thallus is dorsiventral. Thallus is dorsiventral and closely attached to the substrate. Closely attached to the dorsiventral means it will look like this. Dorsiventral means like a leaf. It will look like a leaf. Dorsiventral. Okay. The leafy members will be, there are leafy members, they will be having leaf-like appendages in 2 rows on the stem-like structure. There will be a stem-like structure. There will be a stem-like structure, and in this stem-like structure there will be leafy appendage. Okay. And now coming into reproduction, asexual reproduction by fragmentation of thalli. Asexual reproduction by fragmentation of the thalli. That is one method, asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction of liverwort. One method is fragmentation of thalli. Okay. The second method is a specialized structure known as gamme. Okay, specialized structure known as Gymnosperms. Now there is a mnemonic for Gymnosperms. You know what? This gamme is G for green, so it's green structure. Then M for multicellular. Then A for asexual buds. So this, what is gamme? Gamme are green multicellular asexual buds which form Gymnosperms. Okay, what is gamme? Gamme is green multicellular asexual buds which form the Gymnosperms. And what about the sexual reproduction? And this Gymnosperms will germinate into a new organism. So this is asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction, male and female sex organs are produced on the same plant or on the different plant. They can be on the same plant or on the different plant. Okay. Sporophyte is differentiated into sporophyte. The sporophyte was the multicellular body, right? The sporophyte is differentiated into stem, into food, seta, not stem, food, seta and capsule. There is a picture I will show you. And after the meiosis of sporophyte, it will form spores, as I said. And this spores is produced inside the capsule. Spores are produced inside the capsule. Spores are produced inside the capsule, and the spores germinate to form free living gametophytes. It's like you don't have to read these things again and again. You just have to understand this. Okay, it will be crystal clear. And now coming into this liverworts. Okay, the first one is liverwort mercantia. This is archegoniophore, which means female. This is anthradiophore, which means male. This is the Jamaica. What is Jamaica? Green multicellular asexual reproductive buds. Okay, rhizoids, root-like structures. And this will fragment and form a new organism. Okay, done. And this is capsule. Capsule will be having spores. This is seta and this is root. Okay. Now coming into mosses. The predominant stage of life cycle of a moss is gametophyte. As we said, the bryophytes, the predominant stage is gametophyte. Okay. And it will be consisting of 2 stages. Even the gametophyte is having 2 stages. What are the 2 stages? One is protonema. One is the protonema stage. What are the 2 stages of gametophyte? 2 stages of gametophyte. One is protonema, 2 stages. One is protonema and second one is leafy stage. Okay, leafy stage. Okay, the protonema is creeping green branched filamentous structure. What is the characteristics of protonema? It will be creeping green branched filamentous structure. Okay. And leafy stage, it develops from the secondary protonema. So it's like this. The gametophyte. This is gametophyte. The growth of gametophyte is in 2 stages. First stage it will go into protonema, and from protonema there is a middle stage known as secondary protonema. And from secondary protonema it develops leafy stage. So which are the important things? Protonema and leafy stage. Done. Okay. it also develops from the second. Okay. It will be having a slender axis and spirally leaves will be arranged. There is an example here. See, leaves are arranged spirally around the axis. Leaves are arranged spirally around the axis. Now coming into the slender axis bearing spirally arranged leaves. They can be multicellular and branched. They can have multicellular and branched rhizoids. Rhizoids are root-like structures which help to attach to the rock. And this stage bears sex organ. This stage bears the sex organs. Okay. Now vegetative reproduction. Vegetative reproduction by fragmentation and budding of the secondary protonema. Vegetative reproduction by fragmentation and budding of the secondary protonema. And in sexual reproduction, the sex organs are antheridia and archegonia. Sexual reproduction, the sex organs are antheridia and archegonia are similar, and they are produced at the apex of leafy shoots. Just see this, they are produced at the, see, antheridia, archegonia. They are produced at the apex of leafy shoots. After fertilization, the zygote develops into sporophyte, as we said. Then the sporophyte will undergo meiotic division, spore formation, and again gametophyte formation. Okay. Sporophyte in moss are more elaborate. The thing that you have to notice, more than liverwort, the sporophyte of moss is more developed. Okay, more developed and more elaborate. And this capsule will be containing the spores. Capsule, as we see in the picture, capsule will be containing the spores. And what are the examples? Examples are Funaria, Polytrichum, Sphagnum. Funaria, Polytrichum and Sphagnum. Funaria, Polytrichum and Sphagnum are the examples. Okay, so that is about today's class. Pteridophytes, Angiosperms and Gymnosperms. Along with the MCQ, we will be dealing with the second part. So, signing off from the video. Thank you all for listening me.